Hey, welcome to this week's YouTube video. I'm really excited because I get to sit down and have a beer with a very famous man who runs one of the most popular property channels, I don't know, maybe even in the world, Grand Designs.
Keep going, yeah.
Kevin McCloud, real inspirational, great presenter, great designer, screenwriter and journalist. So Kevin, great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that big puff. Yeah, that's lovely.
So you are a very well-known presenter and also a designer. What do you feel you're more well-known for, designer or presenter?
Oh, presenting. I mean, I also develop, I've got a very small development business, but I had a manufacturing business for about 15 years, and before that I did a variety of things. When you make a television series, like when you go on the telly, none of this matters, because people only remember you for that one thing. And because the reach is so huge, of course, it's not in the thousands or tens of thousands, it's in the millions, so that's why. So I started out being uncomfortable about the title of television presenter, and I thought I should be called a broadcaster, and now I just think, actually I just describe myself as a piece of telly-fluff, because that's really the job, like being the regimental mascot, I just have to look pretty.
So if you had to give up presenting or designing, which one would it be?
I'd be unemployable. I am unemployable in any other discipline. So that's it, and I can't even contemplate giving up making television programs. What I suppose I am responsible for is that thing called content. I can edit a bit, and I can film a bit with my phone, and I can, cut sound and what have you. I've got the basics. Yeah. But really, my job is in front of the camera, and it's an interpretative job. It's about telling stories, really. Yeah, storyteller. I mean, I know in your background, you went to university, you studied history of art and history of architect, is that right? What was like the biggest thing that you learned through those studies that has served you really well today still? Oh gosh. Do you know, I think probably the great value for me of that education was developing some critical faculties, just being able to understand what proper research is, understand what it takes to write something, perhaps, and to learn that it isn't good enough, even for a university tutor, it isn't good enough just to write in a style or a language which is simply factual. It isn't good enough simply to put the facts on a piece of paper and then your interpretation, whatever it is. It really matters to tell a story. It really matters to catch somebody's imagination. It doesn't matter if they're a client of yours. It doesn't matter if they're a reader. My daughter is a journalist. And I remember having this conversation with her. She was faced with this distinction between following an academic career or going into journalism. And we had this conversation precisely about this area, which is when you write for a magazine, you're selling something. You're awakening somebody's imagination. When you write a script, when you write a column or even just a description in a magazine or a brochure, you're having to convey ideas, hopefully in a fresh way, which are going to ignite people's responses. It's going to wake something up in here. Yeah. And that, to me, is what my job is all about, whether it's writing 1,000 words for a column or a 100-word description for the exhibition at the NEC for a Green Hero, or whether it's writing a script, which is a bit more like writing a tabloid newspaper, because you have to kind of condense everything down to a little piece of commentary that lasts 4.5 seconds or 15 seconds or something. So I think that's probably what I learned. And being a great storyteller, I mean, you get people very excited about design and property in general. How many people do you think you've inspired to go and do their own design or to go restore the house? To get people saying that a lot? I don't know. I mean, it's funny this, because now, of course, with social media and with your site. Yeah, my YouTube channel. Thank you. Thanks for being a subscriber. Delighted. I hope you'll return the favour when I finally get my YouTube channel up and running. Of course. But the point about that is you have the numbers there written beneath, telling you how many subscribers, how many, on your Twitter feed, it'll tell you how many people are following you. Yeah. They may not be reading you, but those are subscribers. Whereas with television, how many views did you get last night? Well, actually the viewing audience in television is calculated based on, I think it's only about 200 households which have got these little boxes fitted to the backs of their televisions, and it tells the Audit Bureau, circulation, whatever it is, just how many people of that small sample, representative of the entire nation, how many people watched that programme that night? Well, I can tell you that Grand Designs might get 1.8 to 2.2 million people. But actually in the next hour, when it's repeated, that will go up to 2.5 or 2.6 million. And actually over the next 3 days, it'll go up to 3 to 3.5 million.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take into account then further watches that people click on, via a website or via whatever channel. So it's really hard to establish these days who's watching, how many people are watching, and how you aggregate your figures. It's very interesting too that Netflix, who bought Grand Designs, never publish their viewing figures. And what they do is they tell you how many subscribers they have worldwide or in a particular territory. They'll tell you how many people subscribe to Netflix and therefore how many people that product is open to. I'm sure that they're able to determine, for example, how many people watch Grand Designs on Netflix. I will never know that.
They never tell you.
All that happens is you either get recommissioned or you don't.
Yes. I guess what you do know though is, you get stopped in the street a lot, so you know people are watching.
That's anecdotal, yeah.
What do people normally, when they stop you in the street, what do people usually say to you?
I love that programme. I really love that one you did when you went to that garden.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love your programme. When's it coming back? I particularly like the one you did where you did some Italian cooking. Whatever it is, they confuse you with other people. So I have been Monty Don and I have been George Clark quite a lot. And I am mistaken for one or two other people. I say this, after 20 years of doing it, people now generally do recognise who I am. The coolest thing is when I get people in their late 20s coming up to me, or early 30s, and saying, I started watching Grand Designs when I was 10. Or 8 or 12 with my parents, and I really got into it, and I'm now an architect, and that gives me goosebumps.
Is that why you do this?
It's not why I do it, no, but it suddenly marks the time, and it also reminds me that the best thing television can do is get people to think. It's a really hard ambition because most people watch television and just simply let it sort of wash over them. It's what's called the water cooler effect. Do they go to work the next day? Do they talk to their mates, their colleagues about what they saw last night? It happens less and less because people watch different platforms at different times. Viewing is far more selective, but I'm pleased to say that we still get a good heartland of solid support in the millions of people who do watch it when it is broadcast. So in that sense, it's delivering what the broadcasters call event television. People want to stay in and watch Grand Designs that evening when that series comes out. So I love it when people say to me, I watched that, I saw that, it made me think, I went away, I've now built a house, or I'm thinking of doing it with my whatever. Or I became an architect, or I want to become an architect.
Kids, that's a great feeling.
It's kind of so exciting because all I do is just push stuff out there, drink beer, and try and find in every day the energy, the enthusiasm, the kind of the sort of the inspiration, if you like, in what people are doing in the real world. And if it's of great quality, then I'll want to celebrate that and push it. You're pushing it into a little black tube called a camera, and you're hoping that it's going to come out the other end and have an effect. And when people do respond, it's the most wonderful.
You said that's not the strongest reason why. What is the strongest reason why you do what you do?
Oh, I'm quite driven. Yeah, I'm quite driven, and I am driven to celebrate. If all I did was make documentaries about architecture for Guardian readers, I don't think I could feel perhaps intellectually satisfied, but I don't think I'd feel comfortable. I'm quite a democratizer. I believe in kind of trying to deliver the best possible quality to the largest possible audience. And in that sense, with Grand Designs, I sort of found my niche, I think. So that's a big driver for me.
Do you see yourself more as an educator or an inspirer or an entertainer?
Yeah, all of those, actually, and it's important to be all of those. If you are an educator, you will end up making programs for the Open University. If you're trying to inspire people, the danger is you become a generalist and you end up working across a whole variety of disciplines and genres and subjects. My area is architecture and design, therefore that is where I want to, that's what I want to celebrate. And I'm not happy celebrating rubbish. I'm not happy celebrating the mediocre. I want to celebrate and show good stuff. And it's, sometimes we end up with slightly mediocre projects. You don't know how they're going to turn out. We take a punt, it doesn't quite work. Sometimes we end up with great architecture, and that's when I can really, let go. And sometimes we end up with buildings which most of us might look at and think, give that a miss.
Yeah.
Well, that's odd, that's weird. But actually, it fits a niche. It has a place, a role within what is, in that big sense, architecture and what the idea of home is. So that gives me an opportunity to celebrate the quirky, the unusual,
and
the
you've been on quite a few different shows. I mean, Grand Design is the one that, of course, that's your show. That's your big baby that you're famous for. But outside of that, what's been the most interesting show that you feel you've been on? The one you've enjoyed most?
Oh wow! Well, I really did enjoy. I found it very satisfying to make the 2 programs about Dharavi in India.
Right.
Well, I spent 2 weeks in a slum. I won't say I enjoyed it, but I found it enormously inspiring. Living among 1 million people in a square mile, and understanding how that community worked and what made community in place. And I learned a great deal from it. And that series for me was exciting and inspiring. And it, not least actually, and this is The Educator, right? Not least because I've met so many human geography teachers in schools who've said, we use that series to show our 5th and 6th forms, as an educating tool. So that's exciting when you feel actually it's gone beyond just the original telly transmission and it's used as something. So that was meaningful, but I enjoy a lot of it. I enjoyed my shed series, my 2 shed series I made. Very much enjoyed making the Grand Tour, which was a bit of an indulgence for me.
So Grand Designs, how did that come into fruition? I mean, I know you've been doing it now for 21 years now?
Well done, because this year, you see, we celebrate our 20th anniversary, but...
It's actually 21, right?
Well, it's technically 22 since we started, because now we're in the end of this year. So, I think we started in 97, end of 97.
Talk to me about the fruition of that and how that came into being and how you got into it in the first place.
Look, I mean, television is, the world of television is really weird because you pitch an idea to a channel or to a production company. The production company kind of repitches it to the channel, tries to make it their own. It's all about who's going to get the royalties. And you hope that it's going to get commissioned. And then after you've got commissioned, your wildest dreams are that it would get recommissioned as a second series. So we did the first series thinking, we'll see what happens, probably nothing. We made that. And then they said no. And actually, there was a long period when they said nothing. We thought, okay, well, we'll go off and try and find something else to do. But they did recommission it. And then we got to series 2 or 3, and they said, we'll recommission 2 series ahead. And that suddenly made a world of difference because you move from being a production company with an office that you assemble quickly from people who just happen to be there, to actually being a proper office, which is permanently staffed, and that's not heard of in telly. It doesn't happen in many realms of television. So, for example, our production coordinator, who makes the entire series possible, Amy, has been with us since 2005. Helen, our production manager, has been with us since 2001, I think. It's a long time to be in any job for anybody. And that gives it a tremendous maturity. Our directors come and go because we chew them up and spit them out. We wring them dry. And to be frank, it's also a job that you can burn out on directing if you're not careful because it's very intense. But my current producer, John Lonsdale, has been producer on the series for 7 years now? So it's... we're a big team, and I count a lot of them as friends. And I've worked with the same cameraman, Tony Etwell, for 20 years, and I've worked with some of the directors for actually longer. So on and off. So it's a really small band of people. And the quality of what you see is down to the sort of shared beliefs and lots of evenings spent at the pub. Talking about what we're trying to do, how we might evolve it, what matters, how truthful we're being, and trying to sort of maintain, polish and burnish all the values that the series stands up for, while at the same time trying to evolve it in technical terms, with the new kit that we're able to, use these days, different cameras. So it's a huge collaboration.
So talk to me a bit about design then. So you studied architects. You then worked in a theatre as a designer.
Yes, I trained as a theatre designer.
How was that?
It was exciting. It was very theatrical, in as much as, you know, in designing costumes and sets and lighting, you're designing entire worlds. It's what architects do, in fact, and I got into it because I liked the theatre. And I like the artifice of it. I like the fact that it was a separate world away from tax accounts and, you know, difficulties of shopping and, you know, and the dentist. It was just this magical miniature world. And miniature for me, because as a theatre designer, you spend a lot of time model making. And as a kid, I spent a huge amount of my time making models.
Yeah.
And architects spend a huge amount of their time, generally as kids, making models, playing with train sets. And it's the idea of trying to sort of making these worlds, which might or might not impact on the eventual real world, but which, as a model, it's hard to express this, but as a model, it's in a pure state. So if you make a model of a housing scheme or of a beautiful building, it will never go green with mould, you know, and damp. It will never suffer the graffiti or problems of over parking. You know, it's a perfect vision of the world, and I think many architects go into that world for that, because that's what sort of drives them. It's a sort of creative process, design, which we all do. We're all capable of it. It just takes us quite a lot longer. And architects and professional designers are much faster, much more skilled, experienced, have a much wider range of tools and techniques that they can use. But nevertheless, their drive is to make the world in our image, in a human image, you know, to kind of create a man-made world, which should serve mankind, should serve us.
Well, yeah, everything we see is designed pretty much.
Of course, everything we touch, hold, pick up and use
has been designed.
Yeah, and of course there is. I mean, there's Vitruvian principles that Vitruvius wrote about in the 3rd century BC, still hold true, which are that any well-made object should be it should be well made, it should be well constructed, it should be solid and durable. It should also be very easy to use. You know, it should actually kind of make living and life and using it actually a pleasure.
Yes.
And it should also be an object of delight in its own right. And I think those principles of design still hold true, but to those I would also add the value of sustainability, because I think we've now moved to a place where we understand that every time we make, you know, an object, that object, you know, has not just a commercial value, but an environmental value, an impact. It's using resources, and we've got to make sure that we've got enough of those left for future generations.
Yeah, I think convenience, designed to be convenient, is something that now modern. I know when I'm my new house, there's toilets in pretty much every room. I know you think we've gone a bit toilet mad, but it's,
I don't understand that.
But it's convenient now. So
what? How convenient do you need a toilet to be? I mean, oh look, I've got a sofa. It turns into a toilet. Look, my car seat turns into a toilet. Yeah. Oh look, my kitchen turns into a toilet.
But then back probably when you were my age, you would queue to go to the toilet in your own house.
Yes. As a kid, we had one toilet between 5 of us, but you learned to keep it in, and you learn. And you learn to kind of stagger, you know, to use okay, so I'm not suggesting that a family of 5 should have one toilet. What I'm just suggesting, it's very simple, that if there are 5 people living in a house, perhaps fewer than 5 toilets is appropriate. More than 5 toilets is inappropriate.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think we've gone? Do you think it's convenience? You think we're just going crazy?
It's nuts.
How, when you're building, I mean, trends often move faster than construction.
Yeah.
How do you plan for that, or can you not?
I don't think you can. I mean, Rem Koolhaas, the Dutch architect, says that you know, there's no point trying to be fashionable in architecture because it takes so long.
Yeah.
You know, by the time you've got through your planning and you've got it built, anything that was fashionable at the time is no longer.
Exactly.
No longer.
Well, I've got this with the castle that I'm renovating now. Yeah. It's probably going to be a couple of years before it's completely done, but it's a case of how do we look at what's in trend right now, or do we just do what?
Well, I mean, with a castle, I'd just repair it.
That's the main thing, right?
And that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're repairing it and trying to sort of, in a way, not reinvent it, but just kind of, but somehow elevate its story, its narrative. And I always like projects which are repair projects where you could see the interventions, you can see what's done in the 21st century, you can see what was done in the 1950s, and you actually just show it, just leave it. And you tidy it up a little bit, but not too much. And
why not too much?
Well, I think we do tend to over-tidy stuff. I think ambiguity in the built world is a really good thing.
Yeah.
What makes old castles romantic is when the ivy is hanging off a little bit of crumbling stonework.
Right.
When somebody comes along and tidies it all up and repoints it, it's all pretty.
But on the inside though, what about the inside?
Well, I think equally on the inside, if you've got a beautiful painted 18th century door, it's, you know, why, in a way, why would, just for the sake of a few nicks, why would you repaint it if it's exquisite and you love it?
Yeah.
If there are bits that you love, which speak of the story and the history of it, why would you repaint? Why would you tidy them up too much when actually what they're telling you is how the building's been used, you know, and what the story is? And so for me, it comes back to narrative. It comes back to the idea of how buildings tell their stories and what makes them spring alive and what made you buy it in the first place, you know, because there's always that romantic notion, isn't there? That lovely sense of attachment.
Yeah, there is. It's an interesting one. Well, I mean, I bought it as an investment. Ultimately, I wanted to look great. When you're designing for a home to live in, what are the differences? Is there a whole different set of rules? Because if I'm buying a house to live in and I'm buying a house as an investment, I have a different set of rules. What about in design?
I've lived in old buildings.
Yeah.
But I've nearly always demanded that I have a brand new sofa. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel the need to furnish the old building with an ancient sofa that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
What matters to me is sitting on a sofa, being able to rest my head, fall asleep, and feel super comfy, as I might do in a bed.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a necessity to have to furnish a building somehow in accordance with where it's from or how old it is. There are various kind of rules of thumb you can adopt, but one of them is everything which is part of the building, attached to the walls, you know, is of a time. But when you come to put in the light switches, what do you do there? Do you go out and buy, you know, kind of reproduction 19th century, or there's no such thing as a 16th century light switch. So what, you know, how do you do that with an old building? And the answer is you just do it with some delicacy and some respect. Yeah. And when it comes to furnishing, well then, actually that's as much about the human being as it is about the story of the building. So it's a tough one, and I think it actually, what it really needs is just a little bit of sensitivity, and also, and you'll know this, a sort of natural kind of an energy, a drive. Yeah. You know, you've got a vision for that place, and in a sense, what you have to do is to follow that vision. Yeah. Now, it may not be my vision or someone else's. It may not be to my taste. But if I walk into that building that you're repairing and redoing, what I'm actually looking for is narrative. I'm looking to understand the building, to not see it too scrubbed up and too tidy. I don't care about the blinking sofa. I don't care about your washing machine or what brand of kettle you bought or your standard lamps or your beds. I don't really care about the light switches, because they're just a plate. They can be taken off and replaced. Yeah. What I do care passionately about is the fabric of the building and its story and its kind of how it's been revived, and
no, that's really helpful.
You know, how you respect that, because
for sure,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you a question. If you were advising your 20-year-old self, 3 pieces of best advice, boom, what would you say?
Oh my God. I think I'd say pace yourself. Yeah. Because, you know, if you're lucky, life is long, and I want to carry on doing what I'm doing for another 30 years. So that'll take me to 90. So.
You'll still be doing grand designs?
Well, I don't know. It depends if they commission it.
But I can imagine it.
Maybe. I probably need some help getting around building sites. But so I think I'd say pace yourself. Yeah. And I would also, I think I've come to realise that I'm a better communicator than I am designer. I mean, I think I've made more success in my life out of writing and talking about things and celebrating other people's work. If I'd learned that sooner, I think that would have helped.
Outside of designing, what do you want to be most remembered for?
Doesn't matter. None of that matters. I want to be remembered by my children. I want to be remembered by the people that mean something to me. Yeah. I don't know my customers. That's the trouble. The great thing about doing an exhibition, say at the NEC, which is where we are this week for 5 days, is I get to meet 100,000 customers,
Yeah.
which I don't normally get to see or understand. Like, you know, it's just a number inside that black tube.
Right.
And speaking to 3 million or 4 million people is an incomprehensible number, and I can't possibly hope to kind of understand who they are, or even what my value is to them. Therefore, it would be inappropriate for me to ask them to remember me when I'm just a bit of flickering television screen. That's all I am. You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
No. The point is, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what I mean to them. So, the only thing that matters to me is that for some time after that, my kids, and if they have children, their children, and my friends, you know, those that are left when I go, I don't think anything else really matters. The rest of it is all hubris. The rest of it is all telefluff nonsense, isn't it?
I'm not so sure, but I understand your point. Listen, what are you most excited about at the moment? I know you've got this fantastic grand design going on at the moment live. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this week I am mainly standing on stage at Grand Designs Live. My year is basically organised around these two events, which is at London's Excel in early May, and then at the NEC in early October. What I'd like to do is to say hello to all those people who turn up, who I already do know, people who've been before, who I've spoken to, or some of the exhibitors, and specifically a lot of the grand designers who we've filmed over the years, who come and sit on stage with me, and we talk in front of an audience about you know, their projects and where their life has taken them. So for me, no, it's a big social jamboree. It's kind of it's
so
a crack.
For my guys watching this, they're mostly in property, what should be the number one reason why they should attend the event?
Oh, lots of reasons. I mean, first of all, the exhibition is divided into lots of different areas. If you're interested as a homeowner, there's every reason to come, because there's everything from, you know, carpet tiles to stoves to lamps to kitchen knives and placemats. I bought placemats at Grand Designs Live. I've also bought a table. I bought a desk as well and both were from craftsman makers. So they're not on the high street. They're people who've got workshops and, you know, factories and what have you, and middle of nowhere. And they come to Grand Designs Live to exhibit because there's nowhere else for them to go, and because their stuff is you can only see it on the internet. When you touch something, you begin to really appreciate and understand its quality. And if you go to an exhibition, you can do that.
I love that.
If you go to the NEC, you can do that. You cannot do that on the internet.
Yeah, very true. How do we get there?
You get there by going on a train or a bus or in your car to the NEC.
Tickets?
You go to, I'm saying this in my best Toast of London voice, www.granddesignslive.com.
Love that. Yeah, it's been really good getting to know you, and I look forward to lunch. So
and you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great pleasure, Sam.
Cheers.
Thank you.